Hi, I'm Paola Santana, Strategy Officer for State Policy at Lumina Foundation. In order to reach Goal 2025, that 60% of working-age Americans hold some type of post-secondary credential, including an industry-recognized certification, certificate, associate's, or bachelor's degree, the nation needs to produce 6.9 million more credentials than we are currently on track to produce. Lumina's projections show that we need 2.6 million more working-age adults to earn short-term credentials, 3.3 million more adults to earn associate degrees, and 1 million more adults to earn bachelor's degrees. But the credentialing landscape is very complex, with hundreds of thousands of non-degree credentials available that range from digital badges to fully accredited certificate programs, making it difficult for learners to navigate and understand the quality implications of these programs. Today, we're joined by Scott Cheney, Executive Director of Credential Engine, a nonprofit whose mission is to create credential transparency, increase credential literacy, and empower everyone to make more informed decisions about credentials and their value. Thank you very much for being with us today, Scott.
All right, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with everyone today. My name is Scott Cheney. I'm the CEO of a nonprofit called Credential Engine, and we've been working with the Lumina Foundation and others for the past 3.5 years to advance the work of credential transparency in support of Lumina's goals of reaching attainment of people who have high quality credentials. And what I'm going to share with you today is a little bit of information about us as an organization and the policy work that we're doing in states right now. So first of all, it's helpful to give you an idea of who we are and who we're not. We are a nonprofit organization. We are a community developed organization that works a lot with businesses, employers, educators, policymakers, all sorts of individuals who have a vested interest in the quality of the credentials that are being offered in the country. We advocate for credential transparency. We are a technical company as well, in that we build the technical services to support people's ability to publish information in linked, open, and interoperable formats on the web. A couple of things that we don't do, because these questions always come up. We are not an organization that collects individual records, so we don't track people and their credential attainment. We don't issue credentials, and we don't verify the issuance of credentials to make sure that someone who claims to have a credential actually has that credential. The work that we do is important because the marketplace is so large. There are, in an upcoming report, we'll reveal over 900,000 unique credentials in the United States alone. And when we talk about credentials, we mean everything from high school diplomas, degrees, certificates, badges, licenses, certifications, apprenticeships, everything that is intended to convey what an individual knows and can do based on their education and training. The challenge is that before we came along, there had been no consistent standards for being able to compare and evaluate all of those credentials, which means that people have traditionally lost out on opportunities and get very confused in this morass of information about all of these credentials. So our job is to bring a common language to underlie all credential and competency information in the country, and in fact, eventually the world, in order to support discovery, searchability, comparison, and analysis so that people can make their own best decisions about the credentials that work for them. What we're seeing in the states that we're working in is that this transparency is actually leading to dramatic transformation. It's giving people more information to be able to make better decisions, to target budgets, to define the credentials that meet the needs of the economy, to help people make better decisions so that they're not running into dead ends, non-stackable, non-transferable credentials that will not actually help them succeed and advance in the marketplace and in their own career goals. So we have a number of states that we'll walk through here in a second who are using this information to fundamentally rethink how it is that they're providing services and meeting people where they are. Together, we're building a linked open data network that everyone can access for timely and trusted information about credentials, competencies, And some of the key pieces about credentials that most impact people's decision making, such as quality assurance that surrounds a credential and the organization that's offering it, how that credential fits into a pathway or multiple pathways to get them along their own trajectory, transfer value of a credential between organizations, institutions, across state lines, from the military to civilian world. All these different transfer values can be expressed in the language and in the schema that we provide. How do these credentials link to jobs? And what's the labor market outcome of credentials? All told, our systems can convey over 500 different data points about every credential that's available. You'll see from this slide that we're fairly aggressive and fairly active in how we build partnerships. Everything we do is based on partnerships. We're currently working in and with 20 states and regions around the country, and we believe that by the end of the year, we'll be in half the states who are going to be working with us to make the data about the credentials available in their state public and linkable and interoperable. We do a lot of work with associations. We'll have a slide in just a second that'll show you some. There are 15 higher ed associations that have signed up and endorsed the work we're doing. We work with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the Business Roundtable. We work with the AFL-CIO. Lots of organizations and associations have endorsed the work that we're doing. We also work with a lot of individual employers. We're a partner with the U.S. Navy in helping to transform their work in understanding the value of particular credentials and how that fits into their training programs. Federal government, in addition to the military, has been very supportive. There have been a number of recent grants that have come out from the Department of Labor and Education that are endorsing and requiring steps toward credential transparency as part of their funding goals. All of this is not intended to just make sure that we have public information about all credentials available, but it's really about fueling new tools and services and platforms that meet individuals' needs. So it's to improve the navigation and guidance through pathways to individuals as real time. We like to say that credential transparency can ensure that anyone, anytime, anywhere can have access to the information they need to make their most informed decisions. So we're really trying to ensure that we're meeting the equity and diversity, the access and affordability goals by bringing all of this information forward and making sure that people can have access to it in ways that mean most to them and that are most relevant to them, so they can be making these better decisions about their own credential trajectories. I mentioned a second ago that we work a lot with associations. We recently formed a partnership, a state policy partnership with the organizations whose logos you see here. The original founders of this partnership were CCSSO, the Data Quality Campaign, SHIO, National Governors Association, National Conference of State Legislators, and the Education Commission of the States. We were recently joined by National Skills Coalition, Education Strategy Group, and EQUOS in order to bring their quality frameworks to the work that we do and to make sure we can provide transparent information about where states and credentials and programs are on those quality frameworks as a further attempt to make sure that that kind of information is transparent and accessible to students and workers and veterans, employers and others as they're making their decisions about the credentials that they want to pursue. One of the first things that we've done with these organizations is to produce a state roadmap. It's a state policy roadmap, but it also includes some action guides to assist states thinking through step 1 to 10 of how they need to operationalize the work in the state, how they need to think about policy, how they need to think about aligning this work with existing work that they've been doing in the state to make sure that this work around credential transparency isn't just another initiative or another project, but it is the natural next step to all of the data quality work that's been underway for so many years, and a lot of it being led by the Data Quality Campaign. That the work around credential transparency is just that next step, that next mile of making sure that we're bringing all of this critical information to the public so that they can be making good decisions from K-12 all the way through high schools and into their college and post-secondary experiences. So just a few ideas about what's in this roadmap, and we're going to have this roadmap released in the very near future. Hopefully we'll get that to all of you by the time that this can be taking place. But the roadmap walks through some of the critical steps that we think states should be working through, and that we're working through right now with our 20 state partners, ranging from understanding what's the value of transparency. What does it mean? How does it bring benefits to our policy goals in our state? How do we then make that case across the entire state? So if you're a state legislator or a SHIO or a commissioner, how is it that you can understand the value, but then make sure that you're making the case to the governor and the legislature and all the other key stakeholders in the state? How is it that you can align this work with existing efforts so that this is a complement to and an extension of, and not seen as a parallel or separate kind of effort? One of the first things you need to do when you're actually ready to start making this data transparent is to know what it is we're making transparent. One of the first things I did when I took this job and started this organization was to ask the founders exactly how many credentials are in the country, and they couldn't answer the question. So we began this series of reports to try and unearth that answer, and that's how we've come up with this 900,000. And we also will be coming up with a state-by-state breakdown, and we'll make sure that that's provided to you so that you can go in and understand how many diplomas, degrees, certificates, apprenticeships, licenses are in your state, and then how many of them are available to residents of your state but are offered by national organizations like certification bodies or online programs. And then work to make sure that once you have your hands around that body of information, that you've got the mechanisms in place to start to make that data public and published into the right formats. It's really essential that we don't stop there, but that we then make sure we turn that data into actionable information so that we're thinking about better ways to have career guidance, job search, pathway navigation, transition services, transfer information. That's in not just better tools and services and platforms, but it's getting out to users through venues and through partners and intermediaries that they trust and that they're likely going to want to turn to. And then finally, this can't be just a one-time initiative. This has to be an enduring commitment and an enduring body of work in the state to say that this data should be public and that this data should be always available to people, because you don't just make one decision in your lifetime about what credential to attain. You're making that decision countless times as you're changing jobs, as the economy is changing around you, as you continue to progress in your own career pathways. So these are the kind of decisions that people are going to be making, dozens of times throughout their career, and this information needs to be there for them all the time. So I wanted to just provide you with a little bit of an idea about some of the detailed information inside this roadmap. So one of the areas that you remember we talked about was aligning with existing education and workforce data commitments and initiatives. We provide some detailed examples about what that looks like. We provide, where appropriate, some examples of how states are currently doing that alignment and ways that you can then take some steps to pursue that as well. We talk about cataloging and publishing credentials and how that can be done and what some states are doing. We don't have all the details here on the slides, of course, and we don't have all the steps on these slides. We'll be getting some more information out in a richer slide deck to you. Just didn't have time to go through it all today. Again, turning the data into actionable information so that you can work with vendors. We're actually going to start working with the Midwest Higher Education Compact to ensure that their new master contracts that are being issued for vendors who are going to be offering digital credentials and digital transcripts are using this data as part of those services. We're talking to other parts of the country and other states about making sure that this data is being used in the high school and community college navigation and guidance counseling contracts that they are issuing. So there's lots of ways to make sure that we can have this data woven into the services that are meeting students. New Jersey, for example, just as one more example, is building this data into a new training finder and training explorer tool that's going to be put in place by their Department of Labor and Workforce, and will be rolling out around the first of the year. So many different opportunities to make sure this data is being used and is actually contributing to learners' ability to make better decisions. And then finally, the last step as we work through this entire process is to make sure that the right policies are in place, that there are references in funding for state higher education and K-12 when we're talking about data accessibility and data being publicly available, that we're thinking about doing that through modern formats that are web-friendly and are linkable and open and interoperable. So just ensuring we're not adding necessarily new money, but existing money for IT services and public transparency is being stated in the right ways. We then have a number of recommendations in the roadmap about steps that particular state leaders can take, whether it's a governor, whether it's a legislator, or SHEOs or business leaders or others. So as I said, we'll be getting some more information out to everybody by the time that we all convene for the retreat. We'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about ways that we can support your goals moving forward with credential transparency, credential attainment, improving pathways, meeting equity and diversity goals, all things that we're working on with a number of our states right now, and look forward to being able to talk with you more in depth when we all get together. So thank you very much. My contact information here is on the last slide, and appreciate your time. Y'all have a good day.